If Congress were to pass the Duplication Scoring Act and you were requested by law to give a duplication score or information to the CBO so it could be reported with each bill, is that something you'd be physically capable of doing, your agency could do?
We could use some additional support for the Congress. As you know, we've been given vastly enhanced responsibilities under the pandemic relief packages that have been passed. But I think we can do it. We have the skilled people. We have the institutional knowledge across government and deep knowledge in programs and activities. So we can do it. We could use some support from the Congress to do it in a quick manner, Senator.
When you were talking about food regulation a few moments ago, I think you said, let me see if I've got it right, 15 different agencies have, 30 different standards?
30 different laws. They're
30 different laws.
30 different laws.
For, it's food regulation or food safety?
I think it's both. I have my expert, Mark Gaffigan, on the line. Mark, would you clarify for the Senator, please?
Yeah, it's food safety and, of course, the regulations part of that.
Could you repeat that for me?
Can you speak up, Mark?
Yes, sir. It's food safety, but the regulations is also part of that.
Yeah, he's saying that therefore the laws are for food safety, but they're implemented through regulations.
So safety regulation, but basically you're saying 15 different agencies, 30 different laws,
right.
And it sounds like a confusing smorgasbord to try to figure this out.
It is, and there used to be a food safety working group, but that's been abandoned. We've recommended Congress at least put that in statute so that group meets and coordinates. But this is an area, as I mentioned, since we've had it on our high-risk list, Senator, for 13 years.
And this would involve what, processing of food, like from farm or from, butchering all the way through to the grocery store?
Yeah, the labeling, everything.
Right. I believe you looked at some of the problems with real property data management in the DoD. There's 603,000 buildings. Is it clear which buildings are actively being used, which are surplus, which could be sold, which are, is that part of the problem of looking at this?
Yes, that can be part of the problem. The basic problem we're identifying this year is that each service sets their own standards and requirements about the existence and completeness of these buildings, what condition they're in, and as a result, you can't get a good picture. Let's say, for example, you have a building that's owned by the Air Force, but the Army's moving into that area, just as an illustrative example. So they could maybe use the building, or they could lease it to, within the services. So they need a comprehensive approach to improve their data. Now, they have been, in fairness, when I was here in March talking about the high-risk area, they have reduced the number of buildings that they have. They have reduced the leasing costs, but we think they could do more with better data. And this is what our suggestion is here, that how they go about it's fragmented. This is one of the reasons they can't pass an independent audit, but it's also important.
Oh, it's coming, though. It's coming soon, right?
Well, it's coming to a theater near you at some point. Right now, it's still in the trailer status.
So but anyway, the 603,000 buildings is DOD. So then we talk about the rest of government. We must have hundreds of thousands of buildings with the rest of government. Do you think there's any coordination between DOD and the rest of government? Because if the government were moving, military, they could also use another government building that might sit vacant in a town as well.
No, that's exactly right, Senator. And real property management's still on our high-risk area. The data government-wide isn't as good as it needs to be. So you have the same problem government-wide that you have within DOD. We're singling out DOD this year, but the problem of the data goes government-wide. They're making some progress, but I'm trying to get them to move faster in this area. We mentioned on this year's report that most of the street addresses, I think about 2/3 of the street addresses in the government-wide data were unable to be read by computer, or they weren't very clear. So you don't know where exactly the property is. And so this is an area where there needs to be much better management by GSA and some government-wide leadership by OPM or OMB as well.
think it was a couple years ago, there was a hearing, and Social Security had 6.6 million people listed at over 112 years of age, still active in their role. So, I mean, you know, the numbers and the degree of the problem is astounding. Is part of your job to list properties that are vacant or not used, that are surplus properties, or is that not part of your purview?
It's a responsibility of the individual agencies to do that. We look at how well they're doing that. You know, we did give credit to GSA this past year for reducing their leasing costs and getting out of very high-cost leasing areas where they should have bought the building in the first place. And like the Department of Transportation headquarters building now, we know we're going to have a Department of Transportation for a while, so they finally bought the building, saved millions of dollars in lease costs. But it's up to the individual agencies to do that, and we follow up to see if they're doing it as well as they could. We think they're impeded by the lack of good information.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Senator Paul. I see that Senator Langford has arrived, and if you're ready, sir, you can proceed with your questions.
To the Chair, thank you for allowing me to be able to join in the conversation today as well. I'm not normally on this subcommittee, but I appreciate very much getting a chance to be able to come in and pepper Gene Dodaro with questions. So, Gene, it's good to be able to see you again. Thanks for bringing up the Department of Transportation building. I've made that exact same statement over and over again, why we leased a building